What's going on, everybody? And we're just about to go live. We have some very interesting news when it comes to the Switch 2 specifications, and we have interesting news about more GPUs that are on their way. How you doing, fam bam? This is Chris Mizo here. We're going to talk about a load of different topics here, especially when it comes to the upcoming GPU that ASUS has announced. It seems that now it's becoming more prevalent when they are coming out with more of these GPUs where they have these hidden connections. Now, they were always on production and that they were always on their way, but it's nice to finally see some of them finally come out to the market. ASUS is coming out with their 5070 Ti, and at that, it's an all-white one, so if you want to do a all-white PC build, you certainly can, and especially since I believe it's coming from ASUS's Tough Gaming line, that it will actually have the removable high-power connector on there. In fact, if you take a look here, right here, you can take a look of how it looks like here. It has this right here, so you could choose to actually remove it, and it actually helps with the connection. So if you want to install this, you can. It's optional, and it seems quite secure. Hopefully there's no issues or anything with that. This makes it a little bit more easier and gives you a little bit more flexibility if you're trying to install a GPU that doesn't look like it's using a cable, similar to the Sapphire Nitro Plus with the RX 9070 XT. And going back here for the 50 series, this is how it looks, and it's quite nice. It's all white, gives it a nice little flare, almost gives it almost like a Strix look instead of the Tough Gaming look. Maybe it is the Strix, but here you have the 12-volt connector up here on the top, or you can use these gold fingers, which is that extra port as mentioned, where you can actually use right here if you want to use that side of the connection. So depending on how you have your GPU set, whether if you want to set it up horizontal or vertical, you can certainly have more of a hidden connection of your choice here. We will see the Z2 Extreme more than likely within the next, we'll probably see the Z2 Extreme within the next year. We won't see it within this year, unfortunately. So, yeah, I just realized that. I just turned it on, Sanchez. Thanks for letting me know here. But it's so far from what it seems like. Let me move this over here so you guys can see it. I'm just going to move over this screen so you can see it a bit better here. It's locked right now. There we go. And this one here. So you can see the CPU architecture. Of course, it's going to be ARM. They are using Ampere's NVIDIA GPU, which is Ampere's, and it's not going to be like a great jump. Now, if you take a look at the CUDA cores, it's fairly decent, but then again, it's not going to be that great. Overall, it's going to get about 1.71 to 1.72 teraflops when it's portable. Now, when it's docked, you can expect a little bit more. It's going to be more about the 3.5 range. So don't expect big gains out. What's up, Mech? Good to see you in here. It seems that there's not going to be some large gains out the Switch 2. Certainly the ROG Ally or Lenovo Legion or any gaming handheld, any PC gaming handheld could really outdo the Switch 2 pretty easily. Even though this architecture that we're currently on with the PC gaming handhelds, they're around about almost 2 years old now. And let alone they are going to have a Ryzen they're going to have a Ryzen Z2 Extreme, and then more than likely we're going to see that within the next year. Fortunately, we won't see it later this year. So the Switch 2 seems a little bit outdated when it comes to their specifications, and more than likely they're going with their software, which is what they really sell. It's really their games that they're really selling that really captures everybody. But so Mech says, I've been having a lot of issues on my 4K monitor, especially when watching YouTube. And which 4K monitor do you have? Because I know some of them, depending on what it is. Currently with the newer driver updates, which I'm about to get to, the 57640, if you have a NVIDIA card, it could be affected. Specifically to a lot of the 4K monitors, such as the PG32, the PG32 WCDM could be affected, which is ASUS's OLED monitor. It could possibly affect the PG27 or even the PG34, because the new update will mess with the actually mess with the video settings, so it can make the color look a little bit off, or it can make it seem blacked out. And it's also messing with a lot of LG monitors as well. What's up, that one guy? So you have the MSI MPG32. So like when watching a video on 60 hertz, but when I switch to 1440p monitor, no issues. Okay, so it seems like, and you have which GPU is it? Just to make sure, because more than likely that could be related. So it's specifically on 60 hertz, but when you switch to 1440, you don't have any issues. So more than likely, it's going to, is your driver up to date and your firmware up to date? Those are the first things to check. Also, try to roll back your GPU driver and see if that also helps it, because sometimes that could be the problem. It might be better for you to go back into, say, the last update before this prior one, because it does have a lot of issues. Now, oh, you downgraded to the 5080 Astral. I don't blame you. The 5080 Astral is a good choice too. Currently, there's a lot of issues with the 57640 driver. I know they recently updated the NVIDIA app. I haven't really got to mess with the NVIDIA app, but just to let you guys know on a upcoming video that I am working on is I'm doing a AMD overclock guide for anybody out there who has a Radeon card or a Radeon GPU, and just really show you guys how easy it is to overclock it and also to be able to undervolt it. I will also do the same with NVIDIA on the following week, so I'll make sure to do both GPUs to make it easy for everybody out there who wants to figure out how to get the best numbers out their GPU and how to do it safely. So the subject, if you're just coming in, currently the subject is about the GPUs, about whether it's NVIDIA, Intel, and AMD. We're talking about Nintendo Switch 2 specifications, and we're also talking about Doom Dark Ages, which I'm really excited about for it to be released. It's coming out tomorrow. Some people are lucky enough to get the pre-release. Who has the premium edition, you're able to play it today if you already have Doom Dark Ages. But I want to talk more about the performance side of that as well. I'm also talking about NVIDIA's drivers that are going on, and feel free to ask any questions when it comes to your PC builds, or you're thinking of doing an upgrade, or you're just thinking of switching over from console, and maybe we can help you on that side. Now, if you're interested in any of these subjects, feel free to join the Discord, as we're always willing to help each other out, and I will send the Discord in. Now, is it worth the price? I'm sorry, the Nintendo Switch 2, I'm assuming? Is it worth the price? Because just let me know which one you're talking about. Are you talking about NVIDIA's GPU? Or are you talking about AMD's GPU? Or the Switch 2 pricing? Let me know, and I can certainly answer your question here. And let me throw this in here. I'm going to throw the Discord tag in there for anybody who isn't part of Discord already. Okay, I figured. Nintendo Switch 2. So for Nintendo Switch 2, I have to say, personally to me, I don't really think it's worth the price. Currently, where are you located, in fact? If you're in the US, it's certainly not going to be worth the price. If you're in Europe, it's probably also not going to be worth the price. If you're over in more closer to, say, in the Japan area, or if you're in areas like in Taiwan or anything like that, it might be worth it then, because you'll pay a lot less than we would. But for the current architecture and everything that Nintendo currently has for it, I feel that it's not really worth it because of the outdated technology that they currently have on it, which, first off, they shouldn't have a LCD screen, especially on a Switch 2. You would think that they would make the large leap to OLED. And that's a big disappointment on the fact when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2. The games are also going to be a lot more expensive. Now, there are some games that are going to be lower priced. You can get some games that are going to be more of the regular price of, say, $70 USD to about, but now they're trying to push it up to $80. Now, I know that's going to be the new standard for a lot of games, including Switch 2, but Microsoft has also announced it where they're going to push their games up to $80 as well. So when it comes to Switch 2, I would just wait until they come out with a reiteration of it that actually has OLED, and more than likely it's going to have a larger display. The display isn't bad on it. There isn't really too much innovation, in my opinion, when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2. Cool, you could use that as a mouse, big whoop. Maybe you could even plug in a mouse. It's not really that big of a deal. You could do that with the PS5 currently, and you could also do that even with the Xbox Series X. You could do it with a ROG Ally if you wanted to. So that's what I really think of the whole Nintendo Switch 2. So, but I could understand, especially if you're a fan of a lot of the Nintendo games, such as Zelda, or if you're into Pokemon, or if you're into Mario, if you're into any of those type of games. That's where Nintendo is assuming where most of their sales will come from, because they are the only platform that can do so. Another part that I would like to add in when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2, technically when you do purchase the Switch 2, you are absolutely not allowed to do any type of homebrew or any type of emulation onto the Nintendo Switch 2, because Nintendo does give you a user agreement, a EULA, saying that if you do so with their equipment, they do have the right to brick your system. So technically, even though you say you spent $400, maybe you don't even really want to emulate off of it. You just want to play somebody's game that they made for Switch 2. And like a homebrew type of game. So if you were to play a game like that on the Switch 2, and for some reason they received an internet packet back saying that you were using homebrew, they can immediately just shut down your Switch 2 and you can't play it anymore. So that's another negative about the device. So is it worth it getting instead of an iPad? Now, those are two way different things there. Yeah, you either have an iPad. The iPad's more for, it's not really more of a gaming device. Are you using it more for, say, like production usage? Maybe you're more of an illustrator. I could see that. Maybe you could use it more in that sense, or are you trying to use it more for gaming? If it's for gaming, you're looking for a portable device for gaming, I always highly recommend the Lenovo Legion. Lenovo Legion's really good. ASUS ROG Ally is an excellent device. I love it. It's actually currently behind me. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I could pull it up and show you. But if you are looking for more of a gaming device, they certainly do have them. You'll have much more options. Anybody out there who has a PC portable gaming handheld, okay, so you are using it for more gaming. I would highly recommend just getting something like a portable PC console, such as a ASUS ROG Ally, Lenovo Legion. MSI Claw is supposed to come out with their third reiteration practically for the MSI Claw. And that's supposed to have the new Z2 Extreme chipset in there. And if any of these devices do have the new Z2, it's going to be quite the improvement, a tremendous improvement over the first generation of ROG Ally and the ROG Ally X. Same thing with Lenovo. You're going to be blown out the water on how well it runs. When I've tried it, oh sure, I can definitely show you. So for a device like the ASUS ROG Ally, luckily I got it back here charging. It'll look something like this. Very, very great. It's an awesome device. So if I power it up now, it looks something just like that. Now that's really hard to say no to, right? Now just booting up, it looks great. The best part is it also features a gyroscope in here. So if you're playing first-person shooters, you could actually move with the device. Just like if you're playing, say, if you're playing Black Ops 6, or if you're playing Doom Dark Ages even, the gyroscope, you could actually use it to help aim with your weapon on there. So you could actually move the whole handheld device while you're playing, if you want to use that option. Or the joysticks are, now depending on the device you get, some joysticks are better than the others. I gotta say the original ROG Ally joysticks aren't that great. You would have to mess with the dead zones on them to really set them. That's the only negative I gotta say about that. But it is still a highly customizable device. If you want to change out your SSD, you easily can. This right now in this ROG Ally, believe it or not, has 2 terabytes compared to something which Nintendo will give you, but they only give you, I think, only 256 megabytes. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's 256 if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check if they say it in the specifications here. No, they don't say it. But I think it's 256 they give you. Maybe they give you 512 megabytes, but you can expand this all the way up to 2 terabytes. You could even put 4 if you wanted to. So I highly, if I were to get into a game here, I could show you even Cyberpunk 2077. Say you want to play a game just like Cyberpunk. Very easy to do on the Ally. Oh, and I'm just going to log in real quick because it gives you like a little thumbprint scanner here where you can use the number pad to log in here. So I'm just going to do that. There we go. So while it's logging in, you can really play a lot of different games on it. I was able to play games such as Starfield. I know it may not be everybody's favorite game, but it's certainly playable. So that I'm just trying to give an idea of how much power it actually has. Cyberpunk 2077, you could play very comfortably on the ASUS ROG Ally. You could also play any real game that you could. I don't really see any game you'll have a real problem with. I've tried Baldur's Gate 3 on here. It works perfectly fine. So feel free to ask any. The Claw is so much better. Nothing gets close. Now, with the Claw, I've also reviewed the Claw. I reviewed the first Claw. I never played the second reiteration of it. Now, the one with the Intel chipset, I gotta say, the MSI Claw is mediocre, I feel, in my opinion. It has its limits compared to what you can do with AMD's chipset, I have to say. But to me, I gotta say, I feel like with the ASUS ROG Ally or Lenovo Legion Go, they're both excellent devices compared to something like the MSI Claw. But I do gotta say, I do like the feel of the MSI Claw. The ergonomics are really nice on it. It's a lot more thicker. You can grab it. and that the joysticks are also better on there. I can give the MSI Claw that. It does have some of its advantages, but it still had its limits as well. I do have a video based on it where I did do a ASUS ROG Ally and the MSI Claw versus each other. But again, this is the first generation of their devices when I did that. So, yes, and all of them have like upgradable kits. They're not really hard to change out. And I also have videos on that on my channel as well if you're trying to figure it out. Or feel free to ask the Discord. I can help guide you to find the video for it. And it's really simple. It's not a hard process. In fact, I even changed out the joysticks in this because originally the OG ROG Ally doesn't have Hall effect sticks, but now I put them in there. I put Hall effect sticks so that way it has more accuracy, and now they're magnetic instead of based off of just like almost like a limiter in there. But if you use a Hall effect, those are the better ones I would recommend because they are more magnetic. Here, let me go into something like Cyberpunk. That's right, because I just actually combined my Wi-Fi bands, so I just have to add the password to it. But that's no big deal. So, but if you want to see like a really good demonstration of it, I do have a video of me reviewing it. I did a year review. I should do a 2-year review on it now, especially that I had this for 2 years and it's still quite the beast. The other negative I only have to say about the device is that if you are concerned about battery life, the battery life isn't as long as if you maxed it out because you'll have 3 different profiles, which I'll show you here. Now, if you open up the profiles, you'll see something like this. Now, you'll see silent mode, right? And then you can also put it on performance mode, which means that it will play out a lot better. And usually it's best to put it on performance mode when you're portable. And then you do have turbo mode. Turbo mode is the best mode you could put it on. That's when it goes a full 25 watts here. And if you have it on turbo mode, it will wear down the battery relatively quickly. You can see the battery go down to like within about 50 minutes or so. But if you play with just regular performance mode, you can get about 1.5 to 1.45. But if it doesn't matter to you, you can always plug in the device as well and play it, and it'll just go into performance mode. It'll actually go into a 30-watt performance mode. And that's with any of these portable PC devices here. And the best part, I gotta say, is not only is it upgradable, there is a lot of different items that you can. Actually, somebody that came into the chat last week, I think it was, when we were talking about the ROG Ally, is the fact that on the back of the device, it's so easy to get to the battery. He actually changed it to, he actually doubles the size of the battery, so that way he has about almost like, it has to be 3 hours a battery life on his, like 3 to 4 hours, so he gets really decent life. The original ROG Ally is limited on that side, but if you get the ROG Ally X, then you get more of a better battery out of it, if that's what you're looking for. The Lenovo Legion is also really good when it comes to battery as well. MSI Claw, I think they were pretty close. They were like neck and neck when it came to that. I'm hoping that MSI Claw does improve their their third reiteration of it. Apparently they're supposed to go Z2 Extreme instead of going with Intel's, but they might do 2 different versions. Who knows if they decide to do that. And there is another company that's actually coming out with their handhelds, which is Zotac. Zotac is also coming out with their own version, and it's supposed to debut at Computex coming up in the coming week. So what's up, Nat? Giving you your requested shout out there. That is no problem. I could certainly shout you out. So I'm shouting you out, Nat. But that's how it is like to have the ASUS ROG Ally or any PC handheld. You don't have any limits. You can really get any game that you want. In fact, I wanted to demonstrate how well, even if we had Doom Dark Ages, unfortunately we can't play it today because it's not released. I was hoping that we can be able to access it today, but we won't be able to. And we would be able to test it on a device like the ASUS ROG Ally to see how well it would react to it. I also want to bench it on the other GPUs that would probably make it onto the stream for Saturday, depending on if that's what we are doing. But I will certainly have to set this up again so that way I can log back into the Wi-Fi. Fortunately, I had changed the password, so now I have to kind of reconnect to it. But I'll certainly give you a look of it, and it's definitely worth taking a look, if anything. Now, if you have any questions at all, again, feel free to join the Discord, and I'm also willing to help you out there as well. Another great thing that you can actually do, that just gave me an idea. Monitors such as mine that I currently have right here, which is the PG34W CDM, or any of the ASUS monitors where they have USB-C connection, you can actually hook up your ASUS ROG Ally, and you can have a full display. You can play it straight up on a monitor. When you play it on the monitor, then you can also charge up your device at the same time. So then you don't have to worry about losing any power out your portable PC, or you can play any game that you would like. You would get the full performance out of it. Also, there is another topic I wanted to discuss. Again, there's so much I wanted to talk about, is about the laptops that are currently out, the 50 series laptops, for anybody who is looking for 50 series NVIDIA laptops, who are curious about them. And I know a lot of people who waited for it. And unfortunately for the 50 series laptops and the 40 series laptops, there is a little to no difference between the performance on the two. Some of you might be asking exactly why, because they both have the same process node. They're not different from each other. They're both on the 4 to 5 nanometer node. So it's not really going to improve on that side, because the reason why the 50 series was a leap over the 40 series is because it's getting more power. You're getting 575 watts to the GPU compared to you're getting only about 425 from the 40 series. I'm just using the 4090 and the 5090, for example. You're getting about 425 watts out of the 4090 compared to 575 watts. So of course, if you have more power in a card, you're going to get more performance out of it. And with laptops, they have their limits. I believe their limits like up to 120, I think it is 120 watts or 130. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but they both are limited at that certain specification. And because of that, that's why you're not going to see a large difference. So if you are looking for a gaming laptop, you don't have to waste $4,000 or $5,000 on a 50 series laptop. It doesn't make any sense. In fact, you'll get away perfectly fine if you go with last year's model of a RTX 4070 or 4080, because there's not also going to be a large leap between generations, not generations, but different tiers when it comes to laptops, such as the 4070 and the 4080 and the 4090. You won't see such a large leap in performance between them as well, because you are limited on the power of what the laptop can provide. So if you have any questions about that, about looking at NVIDIA laptops, feel free to let me know. But also, I'm going to show you the benchmarks on it just to give you an idea, just to let you guys know this is no BS here. And some of you may be surprised, some of you may not be too surprised. And let's pull it up here. Let's see these benchmarks. I should have saved it right here. That way it would have just popped up here. And 50. Oh. And right now I'm just seeing the 5060s. Oh, you know what? Let me go here. I know where to find it. So it's going to look something like this here. Wait, this isn't it. Where is it? These are all just strictly Well, I'll get to it. Like, once I find it, I'll definitely share it. Right now, I'm just, it's showing all the different laptops. It's not showing laptops, but it's just showing the GPU benchmarks, which is not what we need. I want to show you the 50 series laptop benchmarks. Let me see if I can pull them up here somehow. And another thing that NVIDIA is doing that's on the way is the NVIDIA ARM processors that they are working with. And they're working with MediaTek, in fact, in order to have this happen here. Because MediaTek and NVIDIA, they've been working on it for a little while. It's nothing crazy. It's not going to be like a 24-core process, 24 process with 32 threads, nothing like that. It's more of a ARM processor. And it's going, you could expect more like between around maybe like 12 cores or so inside. And it would make a large improvement, especially if they do it for gaming. Like for gaming laptops, you would see a lot more of an improvement if that does happen. I'm just curious how it's going to turn out. It's supposed to be, again, with MediaTek and NVIDIA. That's supposed to unveil this upcoming weekend as well. Now, let me see here. Well, I really want to find you guys this benchmark because you're going to find it a bit ridiculous. Maybe I do have it on my page. Let me see if I can find it here. And of course I don't. I might have commented on it, actually. I know where to find it. So if anybody has any questions on PC builds or any questions on upgrading their PCs or any problems that you're curious about, feel free to ask. If you have questions about the Nintendo Switch 2, also feel free to ask. I just went over the specifications specifically about it. It's nothing impressive. It's based on the 20 series of NVIDIA. But it's custom made specifically for Nintendo Switch 2. You can certainly expect them to have some sort of DLSS to improve their gameplay here. Let me go down here. Oh, and that's another thing I got to discuss too. Just a little further down. Apologize for this. Of course, it's going to not come up when I want it. It was... I know. I'll type this in. It'll come. Nope, didn't come up. Right. No. Yeah. I'll find it sometime. Oh, I know. I keep saying I know, but I really don't know. That's something I also got to share with you too with Intel as well. And that's going to be pretty interesting. Let's see. Here we go. Now I found it. Okay, so this was presented by Jared's Tech. And if you take a look here, I don't know why it's not switching on this side. Let me make sure it's linked here. That's all right, switch it back. There we go. Perfect. All right, so right here, you're going to see the RTX 5090 laptop, right? You're going to see about 53 with the RTX 4090 laptop here. You can see that it's getting about 44, 53. So it's not a large increase. Again, it's not a surprise because you're not going to get that much of a large increase because due to wattage. And this is all on Cyberpunk 2077 on the newest version, all on ultra settings. You go further down, you'll get for a 1440p display, you get about 8579. And then when it comes to let me see. Sorry about that. I just was looking to see where I was. That's funny, I disappeared on that side. But on 1080p, you're getting about 157, 155. Again, it's not going to be that large of a difference there. You see? So you get from 5090, you get 157.47 and 155.38. So if you do get a 50 series laptop, you're going to spend a lot more. For example, we could go to, say, Newegg here, right? And if we look at a 5090 laptop, you're going to see how much more expensive it is. All right, so we see this MSI one, right? 4,899, which is insane. 4,899, quite expensive, right? But if you take a look at for the same exact one, but for a 4090 version of it, if you could get the 4090 for the same price as the 5080, I would say get it. I would say get the 4090 for sure. 4090 is still quite the beast. Hopefully you got to see that comparison between the 4090 and 5090. It still holds its own. Oh, apologize for that, guys. Didn't mean that. Switching back. And if you look at the 4090, here we go. You get a Zephyrus, a G16 gaming laptop here, $3,629. So nearly $1,000 cheaper. I'm sure you can get it much cheaper than that. That's a little bit. That's still pretty high though, in my opinion. Should be more closer to the 3,000 range. But again, that probably has more or so to do with what's going on with the current market as it is now. But so to answer Mech's question, if you had an opinion or if you had a choice and you were to upgrade your GPU for your PC and you wanted to get a GPU for it, it's a good idea to definitely get a 4090 if you can get your hands on it. If you can find one new, that's even better. If you have to get it off of the used market, hopefully you can get it. And now the 5090s are a lot more accessible to get. So if you are trying to purchase a 50 series card, you can practically purchase any of them. You shouldn't have an issue finding them. Of course, you may not get the 5090 you want, but they do have them in stock. I know MSI currently has some in stock. Zotac, I think, has some in stock as well. ASUS still is a little bit short supply. And there's a couple other manufacturers that may be short in supply. I think Gigabyte might have some. But they do have them. Whether if you're looking for the 5060, 5070, or 5080, they have them in stock on Newegg, and they also do have them, I'm sure, at your local Micro Center. If you do have a Micro Center close to you, I recommend checking them out because you will get the better deal, certainly, if it is from Micro Center. If you don't have one near you, then your best option is to go on Newegg, or you can go onto Amazon to be able to purchase it. It should be a lot more easier to get your hands on one. And also for anybody that is looking for a PC build or looking for something that or doesn't want to deal with a PC build, I do have a website where you can purchase PCs as well. I only ship in the US. Unfortunately, because I don't trust the process of sending it out outside the US currently as of now, because we want to make sure that the PC does arrive safely. So Mech says, I was between the 5080 and the 4090, but the DLSS4 is so good on Once Human. Yeah, and that's the thing. You'll be able to, believe it or not, the 4090, you still have DLSS4, but it won't have as many. It doesn't have the same transformer model. It just has like an older transformer model. So you won't get as many frames as you would on a 5080. Technically, you should have more frames on a 50 on the 5080 than the 4090. But I got to tell you, 4090 is still very impressive too, just because of it's funny because originally when the 4090 came out, everybody had a lot of negativity to say about it because of how expensive it was. Originally, it was $1,499 to get your hands on one. And now it seems like the price has kind of stayed pretty much the same. And it's one of the only cards, again, with 24 gigabytes besides the 3090 is the only other card that has it too. So for the unless you go for the 5090, which has a little bit more, it's quite insane that they haven't really done anything on that side. More than likely, they are going to come out with the 5080 Super, and when they do, which should be in the beginning of next year, then they'll have a 24 gigabyte version of that if you are looking for something that has a bit more VRAM. Now, most people aren't going to reach that much VRAM. I think the most I've really pushed it up to was maybe about nearly 20, but that was it. That's as far as I could get out of the gaming side of it, at least. And some of you probably haven't really even got to really push it even close to even, say, 16 or 17 gigabytes of VRAM. But that is an excellent card either way to have. The RTX 50 series is... it's good and it's bad. Again, it's more or so that the drivers have a lot of issues. Really disappointed on the pricing. That's another really negative thing about it. The pricing should not be that high for a 50 series card. It should be on the same level as it was for the 40 series, especially for what you see out of it performance-wise. Now, for when it comes to, now, if you're indecisive of saying getting AMD's card, it seems like we have neglected AMD out the situation or in this equation. AMD is also an excellent one to get your hands on. AMD's Radeon RX 9070 XT is really impressive, and I really, I'm not sponsored by any of these companies here. But I have to say, out of all the cards that I did try, AMD has certainly been one of the more impressive cards. When it came to the Radeon RX 9070 XT, just to see how much power you can really pull out of a card that's really only $700 compared to a card that you're spending $3,000 for, and you can build a whole PC, again, around this whole 9070 XT. If you compare the benchmark, say, of Wukong, but again, without ray tracing, just to get a good, decent idea of how much you could really push out of a card of the Radeon RX 9070 XT, I was able to push up to 178 frames per second. And that's on its stock settings. So that's really good for Wukong. If you're not familiar of how demanding that game is, it's one of the most demanding games next to Cyberpunk 2077 and Monster Hunter's Wilds. But these are the top 3 games, I gotta say, if you really want to bench your PC to really test it. And next, I gotta say, Doom is more than likely on the list too, currently, for when it comes to benchmarks, because Doom seems to be one of those games that are very tough on your GPU. In fact, that's also something I wanted to share with you guys, and one of the original topics was the Doom benchmarks, which is going to be might be quite shocking to everybody out there, because it's pretty crazy. And it's this right here. And let me move the screen right there for you guys. So you can see the top tier benchmarks here for Doom Dark Ages are the 5090, and this is again at 4K settings. You're getting 85.9 frames per second, and that's with the best card. Now, if you go down, you go see the 4090 for 67.6 frames. Again, 4K. Same thing, now you have the 5080 next, which was a 55.7. Again, very demanding game. And then you had the 4080 Super, the regular 4080, and then you reach the 9070 XT, which is at 49.4 frames. And that's just that benchmark. There's also another benchmark here. Let me see if I can get into it. we're going to tech power up now because I know there's 1440p benchmarks I want to share with you guys too. Let's see, that's the graphical settings here. And here we go. At 1080p, the 5090 pushes up on the top at 178. Let me switch the screen here. So 5090 pushes at 178 frames. You have the RTX 4090, which is at 158. Then you have the 4080 Super, which is at 132. So for the RX 9070 XT, you can get as high as 128. Again, very impressive for what the card is. It even beats out the RTX 4070 Ti and the 5070 Ti. Ironically, the 5070 Ti underperforms the 4070 Ti, but it does outperform. But the RX 7900 XTX does outperform both the 4070 Ti and the 5070 Ti. And if you look over here to the right here on the 1440p side, you can see that there is the difference between 138.2 frames and then you have 120.2 frames when it comes to 4090, and then for the 5080 it goes to 96.2, and then the 9070 XT gets 91.8. Again, really not bad for, especially for what the card does feature here. And let me see if I can find myself real quick, guys. Try to fix this real quick. And not that. There we go. I'm just throwing myself back in on this. For some reason I disappeared. And where's it at? Media source. There we go. There we go. But I didn't mean to make myself that big. Perfect. There we go, guys. Yeah, for some reason I disappeared there. Okay, so going back into the talk here. So Doom of Dark Ages is going to be quite demanding. If anybody has played Doom Dark Ages, feel free to let me know. I would love to know how your performance experience is, especially after NVIDIA's drivers update. If anybody doesn't know out there, NVIDIA had a new update just a couple days ago, 568.4. It wasn't the greatest update just quite yet because of the different issues it has. But in order to have better compatibility when playing Doom Dark Ages, it's a good idea to have that driver in. And then it's probably good to roll back if you play a different game, because unfortunately there is still glitches in other games. But the good news is it did fix the Monster Hunter glitches, the spontaneous closing, and it also fixed Dying Light, I think it was. That was the other game that it did have other issues with, where it fixed. Still has the same problems when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077 when you are in the practically the highest setting and you're in photo mode. And also it does have an issue when it does have the NVIDIA app open, because if you do have the NVIDIA app open and if you are in game, it will also force close the game out and it will also crash the driver. So hopefully the new NVIDIA app update has fixed that problem. If it hasn't, also feel free to let me know. I haven't downloaded it quite yet on the system. I'm curious to see how that goes. Now, if everybody wants to know how to overclock your GPU and undervolt it, there will be a video coming out. It's going to be both. There's going to be two separate videos. There's going to be one that's going to be AMD specific, and that there's going to be one that's going to be NVIDIA specific. So I will definitely go over it over there for anybody who is just starting out, if you want to make sure to do it safely. But just to mind you, if you do overclock or undervolt any of these cards here, that the manufacturer can also deny your warranty for it. So if you do choose to do it with caution, and if something does happen, just just reset to the default settings. They'll never know, right? But going on to the next point here, if you were coming in here for the Switch 2 discussion, let me know as well, because I was just discussing about the specifications. Switch 2 is definitely not more powerful than this device here, which is the ROG Ally 2. It certainly cannot beat this out. In fact, this is actually 4 times more powerful than the Switch 2. That's how many teraflops that there really is inside of it. Because the Switch 2, when it's undocked, only gets about 1.72 teraflops versus when it is docked at about 3.5 to about 4 teraflops. And with the ASUS ROG Ally or any other device that does have the Z1 Extreme, does have about 8 teraflops, which is a lot more compared to what Switch 2 is offering. They also has a LCD screen, which is something that is a bit outdated and a bit surprising, especially coming from Nintendo. Usually Nintendo is pretty good when it comes to giving something new, giving some fresh innovation. In fact, they were so good at it, like when they came out with the Wii, or when they came out with any of their other devices, that you had other manufacturers such as Sony, where they had their own version, which was called the PlayStation Motion or PlayStation Move. I forget what it was, but it didn't turn out well. Xbox had their own thing, which was the Kinect, but that didn't turn out well. Nobody used it. But Nintendo's really good when it comes out when it comes to something innovating. But it seems like this time there really hasn't been much. The only thing that they've added was the mouse feature to the Joy-Con remotes, which are somewhat decent. It's not really that big of a feature, in my personal opinion, because if you want to use a mouse, you can just connect the mouse. You could connect the mouse in any other console, including PlayStation 5 or a Microsoft Xbox. You could plug in a mouse and still use it, if anybody didn't know. But that just gives you an indication of where Nintendo is. I feel that Nintendo's Switch 2 isn't really worth it at the moment, especially if you are in any of the Western countries. If you are more on the east side, then I could completely understand, because you're going to get it for a much better deal compared to those who are in the West. For anybody that is, I highly recommend waiting for them to come out with their reiteration of the Switch 2. And when they come out with something that is more OLED, and more than likely it's going to have a bigger screen, and it's probably going to be thinner, considering the type of tech that they currently have inside of the Switch, it can easily be done. I can't say really easily, but I can imagine it would definitely be a lot more thinner, and they could make it more portable in a way. But it's a bit disappointing on that side for Nintendo Switch 2. So if you were looking to me to think of saying, is it really worth purchasing a Switch 2? I say no, especially on the Western front. Now, when it comes to the another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was Intel. Intel is coming out with something new, and they're actually coming out with a dual GPU. Almost like something like SLI, if anybody remembers that, NVIDIA SLI, where you're able to hook up 2 GPUs together. They kind of came out with their own thing, where it's going to be 2 GPUs on 1 unit. So apparently it's supposed to go up to 48 gigabytes of VRAM, which is pretty insane. And I'm just curious to see how it works. Is it going to both work in unison? So, oh, I just saw your messages, Mac. But it says, why don't you stream in 1440p? I do it with AV1 encoding for YouTube stream and no issues, even in 4K. Twitch is, oh, yeah, that's the only problem. It's because I haven't streamed in 1440p yet because of, again, Twitch. That's the main reason. I don't think Twitch has 1440p, unfortunately. And that's the other platform I'm on. Otherwise, I would do it in 1440p. But that's a good recommendation. I was thinking of doing AV1 encoding. I did change out. It's funny, I did do a little bit of network upgrades, and hopefully it would run a lot more smoother in that sense. Maybe I'll experiment it with one time. Maybe I'll mess with it tomorrow, see what I can do. because I really want to get Doom on stream, get a good sense of how it performs on both the both on the 9070 XT and on how it performs on the RTX 5090. So I definitely do want to share that aspect of it for sure. But that's a good mention though, for sure. And let me see. Another thing I do want to mention here was, oh yeah, back on the Intel subject here, Intel's supposed to come out with a 48 gigabyte VRAM GPU, which is pretty insane. And there's also a rumor that they're going to have another battle mage where it seems more likely that they will have a 24 gigabyte version, which would be something everybody is asking for. And the good thing is, this would also increase the competition side, where more people would like to see the competition when it comes to Intel. They could be a lot more competitive when it comes to going up against AMD, and maybe competitive against NVIDIA. But then again, we have to see how well they really push out their Intel cards. And I got to show you guys on how it looks, because it looks pretty impressive, in fact, here. It is for the B770, the B770. And right here, I'm going to share this with you guys here. So it's going to look something like this. And apparently this is what they're coming out with. And this is what they tweeted, that they say, stay tuned. That they want to say it so bad. I know they do. But if they do, it would be really nice. So everyone's asking for the B770. And apparently it's going to have these two chips, the BMG G21, which both powers the B580 and the B570. And this would make a very interesting move out of Intel, especially because it seems like they're listening to people more. And again, a lot of people are curious if it would have up to 24 gigabytes of VRAM. Hopefully they do. That would definitely please the crowd out there who is looking to try to get a GPU from Intel. And I really want Intel to succeed this time. For anyone who doesn't know, I do have a Gigabyte unboxing that is going to be coming out sometime soon. I'm going to have that video be released probably first, and then I might have the overclock videos next. And so if you need a guide for any of that, if you are looking for a Intel motherboard, I did a unboxing for a Gigabyte AORUS Master Z890. So if you are looking for a chipset in the Intel side, let me know. It's not really too crazy. I've seen a couple people now that has come out and said that they do have Intel systems, or they're interested more in Intel systems. I will definitely share more of it if you are looking for that side. But currently, there is a couple projects I do have coming up, and I gotta say, I agree with Mech. The XESS upscaling has certainly improved a lot. And I do have to say there is another build that I do want to talk with you guys too, which is going to be a stealth build. A stealth build where it's not going to really have any RGBs. It's just going to be just all performance, just straight up. Maybe I'll call it Project Ninja or Project Stealth. We'll think of a really decent name for it. We can vote upon the name for the next project. But it's going to be that PC build. And another PC build that is going to be on their way is going to be that Intel build. Just trying to figure out what to really tie in with it. And if you prefer more of a gaming build, which is going to be based off the 265K instead of the 285K, let me know. Or if you want to see something more creative for a creative build, as somebody that is gaming and streaming, feel free to let me know, which would be more of the 285K. Of course, you can get AMD and Intel needs to put a massive pressure on Nvidia. Absolutely. They definitely have to put more pressure on them. It would certainly help the stakes between the video card market, and it can certainly help the pricing. And that's the major problem when it comes to, with the current situation when it comes to the GPUs. As the one thing I haven't mentioned yet here on stream is the fact about the pricing when it comes to NVIDIA. It seems it is here to stay. That is not changing, unfortunately. It seems that NVIDIA has decided to keep the price rates between 10 to 15%. There has been the price has been increased even in places like Taiwan, where it's up to 10 to 15% on all of their Blackwell GPUs. Ironically, NVIDIA is also going to open up base in Taiwan as well. So that's going to be a good thing for them. And unfortunately, it seems that the new norm for a RTX 5090 is going to be around that 2800 range or even higher. So if you are looking for a RTX 5090, you expect to spend a good, decent amount of money on one, because they are not going to be cheap. Even 5080s are pretty pricey. I'm pretty sure Mech can tell you, especially if he went to the 5080, because some 5080s can go up as high as $1,600 depending on which AIB you do purchase. Now, if you do go GPU wise and you do go 50 series, I would highly recommend going 5080 out of the whole bunch. Don't jump to the 5090. I feel that nobody really needs a 5090 unless you're doing more of, if you're more involved with AI learning, if you want to deal more with like LLMs and things like that, it would be great to have a 5090 for that side, and also great for gaming, great for productivity use. But I would say it's best to keep away from the 5090 if you don't have to. For gaming wise now, I highly recommend going more into the 5080 or anything under that. Most people would be happy with that on the NVIDIA side. If you want to switch off of NVIDIA, I highly recommend going to the 9070 XT. I'm very curious about how the performance of the 9060 is going to be. Now, I can afford the 5080 and the 5090 because I work, but the prices are out of control. It is really out of control. I've been talking to some buddies of mine, and they rather buy a PS5 and pay and play online and get a gaming PC due to money. I recently sold that 7900 XT AMD, and now I took out my 9800 X3D so my buddy could have good gaming experience. That's really nice of you. And I'm currently running a Ryzen 9 7900X and a 9800 X3D on my way. So you're going to have a really nice build, in fact. You're going to have a very decent build, especially for the everything that you have specification-wise. But it's certainly nice of you to do that. And I know a lot of people that are willing to do that, trying to do a build for a friend or get somebody into PC gaming. Fortunately, there's this fear that PC gaming is very expensive. It could be. It could really be expensive, but honestly, it doesn't have to be expensive. That's the thing. Not everyone's going to spend $5,000 on a PC build. You can certainly still build a PC that's well under $2,000. We did it with the 7900. I keep saying 79. We did it with the 9070 XT build, and we spent about $1,800 on this build, and it's still quite the beast in gaming. It still has excellent benchmarks, and again, it's quite the machine. You've seen my PC. Yes, I remember. I do remember it. It was quite impressive, and that was on Discord. Again, for anybody who wants to join the Discord channel, feel free. It is right down here. The funny thing is, here's the funny thing. It seems like I gotta find like this better view counter, because the view counter here, it's not really that accurate. It's going to, if anyone is curious about that. Yeah, the fear that not only getting 3 parts is a headache and good performance, we wouldn't be, yeah, for the 7900. Yeah, that's something they gotta really fix on that side, because that's just ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense at all. Oh, looks like it's not clear. There we go. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all to be charging that much for a 7900 XT. Not at all. And going back to the Intel side here, not besides Intel, I'm curious what they're going to do with the 18A. I don't know if they're going to have any mention of it during the whole Computex, because that's supposed to be their competitor against AMD. I'm just curious to see how well their performance is. NVIDIA also did mention that they are going to throw some 50/50s in laptops. So if you are looking for a laptop with the 50 series, you can always go for that. And ASUS also released their 50 series card where it's like all gold. That's an insane looking card too. But it's going to be quite crazy. There's supposed to be a lot of new PC parts that's supposed to be coming in for the whole Computex side. Supposed to be some surprises. Noctua is supposed to have some amazing stuff. I think they combined with Ant. I was going for one for my gaming PC, and they were low as 650. I do remember that. In fact, I do remember when they were dropping in price like that. But it's insane, right? Just to see how quick it switched when it came to the whole GPU side. But yeah, at least you got the 5080 though. I'm sure you're happy with the 5080 over the 5090. 5090 is, again, I agree, it's quite too much GPU for many people out there, and you can do so much more, especially if you are trying to get a GPU for your PC. You can have the ability to add a 4 terabyte SSD. You can add quicker RAM, and you can have a new GPU for the price of like a RTX 5090. It's insane. But I'd suggest anybody out there who does have a 5090, just go 5080 instead, especially if it's for gaming. That's definitely a smart move to do, because you'll get way more value out the 5080 than you do the 5090. There's so much issues with it, and that I wish NVIDIA has done a lot better with this generation. It was supposed to really be like this innovative generation when it came to the 50 series, but it really seems like they haven't really hit the ball out the park. It still seems like the ball's in the park, that hasn't really done anything, especially with all the driver issues. It's already May, and we're still running into the same issues. So how long will the next driver be? You think we're going to have to wait another month for them to come out with the new driver and hope everything is fixed? That's the biggest problem right now with NVIDIA, and I'm sure it's pissing everybody off, especially those who did buy the 5090 and are stuck with it and is not getting any value out of it. What's up? What's up, champ? Good to see you. Glad to see you here. Kicking in. And yeah, we were just talking on the subject about the whole Switch 2. We were talking about the subject of Intel, about how they're coming in with their GPUs, possibly 2 different types. They're coming out with possibly the dual GPU, which is kind of gives you the flashback of the whole SLI, like when they did that, the whole SLI, like with NVIDIA, and AMD had Crosshair, kind of something like that. Oh, awesome. Yeah, Champ was actually one of the winners of the giveaway. I still haven't heard back from the other guy yet. I emailed him a few times and nothing. But I'm glad that you got it. Hopefully it fits nicely. Let me know how you like it. But I definitely want to do more giveaways soon. When I do, I will definitely let everybody know. Just have to make sure the whole financial situation is right first. I learned that I am not a handheld gaming guy. I have gotten it out of the mailbox. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Yeah, not everybody is. It's funny. Some people, I feel like that when it came with laptops. There's been multiple experiences where I've received laptops thinking I would really use it, but then I always find myself ending up going back to the desktop PC because I would feel the most comfortable. And I'm sure everybody else probably had a similar experience that when you had a gaming laptop, you felt a bit restricted to enjoying the full experience of gaming on a PC. So you would go onto a desktop anyway, that you can just go directly to a power source instead of having to worry about any type of battery life or your connection or anything like that. But I do agree. And oh, let me check it out. I bought ROG Ally and never used it. I sold it to. Yeah, it's funny because it seems like some people will love it because they'll make use for it. Discord. Let me go check it out. PC hardware. Oh, nice. I gotta share this with everybody. This is pretty funny. He has his PC set up right here. But yeah, that's quite the nice setup there. I do like it a lot. Awesome. I appreciate anybody that's out there watching the stream too. I really do. And but also that's what I was also talking about. There's upcoming builds that we are planning. There's a stealth build on its way, and this Intel build we're still trying to figure out. Everyone can have a vote on it, and which I will probably put up a poll like for a good month on it and see what type of build everyone would prefer to see on the Intel side. If they would want to see more of a creator's build, or if they want to see more of a gaming build of the Intel motherboard. I know there's not a lot of Intel people out there, but there's quite a few. There's little ones in and out of there. But speaking of which, ASUS, Gigabyte, they're all coming out with their own. ASUS calls it BTF, Gigabyte calls it Stealth, and MSI calls it Zero. They're all coming out with their own version of a hidden connector, and because I guess they see that they've always planned it, even before the whole Sapphire's card here. And it's good that they actually produced it, because it was always experimental at first, but for them to really push it out, I'm really excited to see where that comes out. And I think it's going to make builds a lot more clean, and it's going to make it a lot more easy. But the biggest issue when it comes to boards like that, or peripherals, or any type of accessories like that, you'll need a case that will compromise with those type of connections. Otherwise, you might have difficulty trying to plug in the power supply harness into the motherboard, or you might have some sort of issues going on when you're connecting something, because you don't want to put in a motherboard in a case and then you're like just about like almost done the build, and then while you're connecting everything you're like, oh, I can't connect this. That would be a terrible thing. So if you are planning to do any type of build such as that, just make sure you get a case that is compatible. That's the biggest thing. Check out the case, see if it's compatible with ASUS's BTF, or it could be Gigabyte Stealth, or it could be MSI Zero. Those are the biggest things. Some of them will have some flexibility to where you'll be able to attach the power cable prior to connecting it, but really it's more of a space issue and room issue if you're trying to do a build such as that. But that's going to be exciting. I hope it gets more popular. I'll make it a lot more easier for anyone to connect the cables. The biggest thing is to manage the wires, because I can imagine if the wires are unmanaged, then it could look quite like a bird's nest back there, especially because now you're not really using as much slack as you used to. So everything's just going to be bundled together and probably all crisscross wired. So you don't want that to happen as well. But that is supposed to be coming out soon, and AMD's 9060 XT is supposed to be was teased already. It's render, but unfortunately, they are not going to release their reference card. It would be really nice if AMD did release a reference card, because I think it would sell really nicely. Now, how big is the desk? It looks really long. This one's actually a 60-inch desk. It looks long, but what I did was I connected two 60-inch desks together. So it's this one, they're actually two tables or two desks put together. So I got one 60-inch desk here, and then I got the other 60-inch desk on the other side of it. So I combined the two. This one is, I actually got it off of Amazon. It was 7 Warrior, I think was the company. And I can definitely share it with you. It's a great table. I love it, and haven't had any issues. Definitely one of my more favorite ones. The only complaint I have about this desk is the fact that this isn't one full sheet. It isn't a full sheet or a full table. Instead, it's like two different sheets that you have to put together and bolt together to make them into one, instead of just one full one, which is something I would prefer. It would be more stable, I feel like, for certain, in my opinion, if it was like a full table or a full board instead of versus two separate pieces. But yeah, it's two 60-inch desk put together, and that's what I did. So that way I made my own type of desk. Both my desks are like that, but one with my main rig is solid. Oh, that's good though. If you have a nice solid desk, that is all anyone can ask for. There are other desks out there I really like, but I know some of them are really expensive. Like I like these desks from, what is it, Stealth Labs? I'm trying to remember the name, but they have really nice desk, and it's like pure all metal. You don't have to worry about like any type of breaking or damage or any wobble. And that's another issue I have. Like if you look at my desk here, a rosy gaming desk, I bought it secondhand, but apparently it's high end. Oh, that's nice. That is a nice desk, actually. Now, my biggest issue is, like, say if I'm moving my monitor here, like the whole desk shake, you know, because it's still a very stable desk, but the whole desk will vibrate if I move something. So that's the annoying thing about it. If it was more of a solid desk, I know that wouldn't happen. And mine says, yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, mine shakes if I do any type of movement. It's sensitive. It's a bit sensitive, but again, it's workable. Eventually, I would love to upgrade in the future, but again, I prefer focusing on the projects first before I start working on that side of it, and bringing up more projects for everybody out there, more giveaways, that type of thing. But I certainly would love to. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So that's why it's like throughout my days go by really quick, I gotta say. It's funny, somebody asked that before. Too heavy to move. Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. I wonder how was it like moving it? Use liner. Do you say what you do? Yeah, well, I work for the government. Yes. So that's what I do. I'm just thinking. So with this, you know what I did with the desk too, with this monitor mount, I also added a piece of 2x4 under it to try to stabilize it a bit more and to have better grip, but it still has like a bit of wobble on it. It could be the clamps, but I'm pretty certain it's the desk though, because again, it's two pieces. So where it's clamped at is like between those two pieces, I think. State or federal? Federal. To answer your question, federal. Yes. But yeah, it's two pieces, unfortunately. And yes, they are. They're One actually isn't an anime piece, but actually came in my collector's box when it came to Mortal Kombat. It's the feet, not heavy enough. Yeah, it's funny. It seems like they're solid, but they're not. One's a Scorpion figure. I actually got this a long time ago in one of the, I think it was Mortal Kombat 9, like when they came out with that. So it was Scorpion, and then the other figures that I collected. I used to not really have that many figures, but I actually collected them when I was in Japan. I had to get them, so I ended up getting I got Ace from One Piece, and I ended up getting what else? I ended up getting some Demon Slayer ones too when I was there. So I went through 2 gaming desks before this one, and they're probably similar to this one. But I definitely, speaking the gaming desk with you, it definitely makes me tempted to look at more, for sure. I have some Harley Quinn figures on my desk. Oh, that's dope. You know, it's funny. Originally, I was thinking of like getting like Batman figures originally before, and that's something I've always wanted to get, like the realistic looking ones. Because when I was in, anytime I'm in Taiwan, there's this bakery shop that has these really dope figures of DC, like big, large scale figures, and they would have either Batman. I think they also had, I think they had Lobo, and they had Superman even. But they're pretty dope. Like they'll change them out every once in a while. It wouldn't always be the same one. Yeah, I don't blame you. I can understand. And also I used to collect like the 52, the new 52 comics, was it? Or no, not new 52. It was after new 52. It was the new, I forget what they called it, but the comics right after the new 52. I started collecting that for a little bit, for a while too, when it came to DC. And they were always great when it came to their stories. Like the new Batman, it was the new Justice League, Superman. I forget what else I have. They're all stored up actually on the desk up there. But those were something I was collecting for a while. I would go to the comic book store to just pick up, and I would spend like easily, like I think it was like $24 a week on it. But then I ended up stop collecting because again, it's one of those habits where it's easy to build up, especially if you get more and more different comics each time. Like they had the Deathstroke one. They also had what else did I get? I actually did get a Harley one actually. I think one of them is Harley when I did get at the comic book store. But yeah, they have great comics. It's a shame that DC doesn't do the same when it comes to the movies. Has anyone out there saw the new Superman trailer? I gotta ask. It just like, I think it got released today or yesterday. But have you guys seen it? The new Superman trailer? What are your thoughts about that? I gotta know that. I don't collect anything but Steam games these days. I hate clutter. I don't blame you. Now, speaking of that, it's like I have all these comics, and I also have actually a lot of Pokemon cards too, like from back then. And it's just sitting there in storage practically in my closet. I would love to make more room, but I feel like I got to get a much bigger place too on top of it. And that would certainly help with the space because, as you see, the space that I'm working with in the studio is very limited. Yeah, and that's the thing. I actually sent them out for grading, a lot of these cards. I have some decent cards. They're probably too high up on the shelf though. But I have some really decent cards. I got a first edition Shiny Magikarp, the original Shiny Magikarp. But it was only graded like I think a 6 or something. So the grade wasn't that great. I thought I kept it in great condition, but apparently I didn't. And I think the highest grade I had was maybe 8, I think, currently. I ended up selling my, the highest grade one I had was, no, I do have a 10 actually, but that's more of a newer card. But yeah, Pokemon cards, they definitely built up a lot in value. And that's my main reason why I'm holding it. More than likely, I just want to hold it over time until I get to the point where I would want to get rid of it, like maybe in 20 years or so. Maybe it'll hold more value then. I don't know. If it doesn't, then at least I tried. Just one of those investments I'm holding on to. Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm just holding on to it now, practically like as one of my investments for the future. Oh, got some Discord alerts. And my case, oh, there you go. And let me share this with you guys here. Oh, yeah, the HS420. Okay, I'll share this with everybody online here. And right here. I have to switch to the browser now. It's loading up. That's a nice case. That's a sick case, actually. I really like that a lot. It's not, and it doesn't look like your typical case. That's what I really like about it. A lot of the cases now are kind of Lee inspired. But this is actually a really decent looking case. Oh. I like the side of it too. Like how it has the grill. It makes perfect sense because then it's not, you don't really see that side of it anyway. It would be really nice to do the cable management on it too, because you have like access in the back. That's one thing that bothers me about motherboards is why is there never a hole like by the CPU side? Because then it would be makes it much more easier to hide your wires on your motherboard for the AIO instead of like routing them around or something. But I do like this case a lot. That's a dope case, Mac. Yeah, that's funny. That's one of my investments. It's funny. Yeah, originally it's like one of those things where I don't know why I just held on to them. I just always held on to the cards, and they just like followed me like throughout my life. And then now I just have them on the side to hold. But Pokemon cards are now like a good investment. And by then, like by the time I probably do sell them, we'll probably hit like maybe the 50th anniversary, the 50th year. Put more into your TSP. My TSP. What do you mean by TSP? Just so I'm picking up on you, champ. But I gotta say, if anyone's investing now, currently in the market, it's doing well. If you're invested in the stock market right now. Definitely was a great time to buy earlier. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. That's all, well, they, see with that thing, okay. See with that, they actually handle it. They actually do the count and they do everything themselves. So they go by really how much your best years are, and then they go off of that. So whatever your best years are, that's what your retirement would be. That's how it would work. So it would probably be towards the latter years, I would imagine. And that's how that would work, for me at least. Yeah, but going back onto the subject here, let me see. Now this is going to be funny. All these, yeah, sure. Yeah, let's watch it. And you guys can tell me what you think. That's a good point here. Let's go here. There you go. I don't know why it's doing that. There it is. Right here. Let me turn on the desktop audio so you guys can hear it. Can you guys see it okay? He does, right? All right, so let's, sorry guys. Okay. Doesn't look too bad. Only thing that bothers me, I feel like, is just the costume. I wish it was just a bit better, in my opinion. But other than that, that looks like it's pretty good. Yeah. That's the only thing, right? It feels like it's a little bit off. The way the costume that they present it is. I feel that they could have done just a slight. I'm surprised they haven't improved on it, but again, yeah, it's kind of rough looking. Yeah, I wonder what made them say that, give that logo, and they said this is it. This is the one that we're gonna go with the film. This is the one that we want to use. That's what I'm curious about. But I gotta say that Superman wise, I don't think he's too bad for it, but yeah, that's the thing. They, especially if you're dealing with Superman, it's one of those things where they can't mess it up. Especially if they're trying to. This is supposed to be like the new start for DC too, so that's what's making it interesting. Is I'm curious how that's going to unfold. I'm curious how that is going to go. And let me go here real quick. I'm really excited for this Doom game to get released. If I get a chance tomorrow, I definitely will do some streaming on it just to see how the frames would be. Like when it comes for the RTX 5090. So they removed the Superman. This is a good point that they brought up here. For like when it comes to the Superman side, which I'll show you. Which is right here. Like if you look at it, right? They removed when he blinks. Like now he doesn't blink, but in the original one he blinked. That's a very interesting pickup on somebody there. Do you think it has more of a feeling because he didn't blink, right? Where it's funny when you look at like all the little details that they do for something like that when it comes to the movies, because something like that can give you a completely different feeling if you're watching it. So you're watching him, when you watch him either blink and then he doesn't blink. Do you think that was the right choice? Or do you think it's better that he actually blinked? Or was it too human-like? Is the good question. I think it is. So that's probably why they chose not to do that. But going back onto the topic here, so we know for a fact NVIDIA is deciding to stay with these 10 to 15% price hikes. They're not going to drop it any. AMD is staying with their pricing for at least a month and a half. They're also supposed to reveal the 9060 and the 9060 XT within the next week or so. Computex, I believe, starts on the 19th of, but for us here in the US, their 19th would be more like the 18th for us, like 18th and like at night about. And we'll probably get all the new information by the morning that quick. But 9060, I'm curious about how the performance is going to be. 9060 XT, it's going to be a question on performance. Pricing wise, the 5060 and the 9060 are going to be pretty close to pricing. The 5060 seems like it will be on the cheaper side compared to AMD's. AMD's 9060 XT will be around the range of 360 to, I think it's not 360, like more like 380 to $420 versus the 5060 Ti, where that's more of like a $350 range to maybe up to $400. They're both going to be running on 2 different memory bit buses. So I think one's going to be G7, one's going to be on G6, and one's good. I think they might be actually in the same one, 128-bit maybe. And they will have 2 different models. They'll have a 8GB to 16GB variant. So I expect the 9060 XT to put NVIDIA's 60 series to shame. Well, if we're talking 60 series, I hope they do come out with a surprise when it comes to AMD. They may be coming out with a 9080 XT, and if they do, hopefully it does bring the 50 series to shame. They need it. They really need to get corrected when it comes to their monopoly in the market, which isn't a good thing. That hopefully it does end up kind of balancing things, because that's what we really need, is more of some sort of market balance when it comes to GPUs, I gotta say. And when it comes to the GPU side, NVIDIA practically controls all the pricing at this point. And when it comes to AMD, it's a lot harder for them to compete, because it's almost like unfair practice for them at this point. But I definitely expect 9060 XT to. I hope they're going to be very competitive. More than likely, they will. They want to. Hopefully, AMD sees how well they did. I'm sure they know how well they did. In fact, they know they had 10 times more to sales than they expected. And because that they did, that AMD does have that possibility of expanding their GPU side, that they could get more of, if they do have a more premium GPU, and people that are interested in purchasing that premium GPU, then they can certainly do it. They can certainly put it up. But I do have high hopes for that as well. And I gotta say, AMD is going to be one of those ones where they could surprise everybody. Intel's another one where they could surprise everybody with their GPU. I'm curious what possibilities they have. NVIDIA, it's like we already know what they've brought out to us. The only thing that they can really change the game with is when it comes to their ARM process, the one that they're working with MediaTek, which is practically like something like the M1, just like the M1 that Apple has. So NVIDIA and MediaTek are working together on their own version, and it should be a lot more competitive on that side when it comes to the, again, a whole different sector. But they're very focused on the AI side of things. And I think that's where they want to dominate the industry the most of. It's almost like we're kind of on the back burner on that side, at least. I know there's companies out there, like I know Noctua is supposed to be coming out with something new. They teased a bunch of different items that they're going to come out with. Deepcool is another company that has teased a lot of something new. And there's quite a few. I think Fractorial Design also did. So we're going to see some new products for sure out of Computex. Hopefully we get some impressive, something impressive. And if nobody knows, Western Digital also has released their NVMe 5, their PCI Express 5 NVMe. So you can get a Western Digital Black. It's the 8100. Ironically, it's like what they did with Samsung, meaning how Samsung just called it the 9100. The Western Digital did the same thing. They called it the 8100 Western Digital Black NVMe PCI Express 5, where you get 1 to 4 terabytes of PCI Express 5 speeds. So they did release it today. I'm just curious about how competitive their speeds are. I wonder if it's competitive to Samsung speeds. Currently, the one that I have in this system's up to 10,000. Now they can go up to about 14,000. And that's probably going to be the limit when it comes to PCI Express 5. But I know that is also coming out. Also, well, that is released. In fact, let's take a look at the pricing of it. Because I know for sure, let's take a look on Newegg. It's probably going to be around the same pricing. I wouldn't be surprised if it's on the front page. And surprisingly, it's not 9100. No, 8100. Put the wrong thing. 8100. It's funny, they got so many different storage devices that, yep, SN8100 to be exact. $180 for a 1TB version. And it says sequential write speeds are up to 14,000 megabytes per second. And it has about 2.3 million IOPs. So a 4TB version will cost about $550. So you compare it to the Samsung 9100. I know that's also 14,000 megabytes per second. The IOPs, I'm not sure. They might be similar. Random write speeds. So 4 terabytes, it's actually cheaper. It's $50 cheaper. So you definitely get a better deal out of this one. I'm curious. But the thing is, nobody really needs PCI Express 5 at the moment. Because PCI Express 5 has its limits. Because unless you're transferring files very often, if you are going between two different drives, it's not really necessary. If you are gaming, it's definitely not necessary at all. If you're even if you're video editing, it really wouldn't matter. In fact, just to give you an idea of how ahead the PCI Express 5 is compared to, say, the M4, right? The M4 MacBook Pro. That's only running speeds of up to 4,000 to 5,000 megabytes per second. So it's still technically like even a generation behind. So it just shows you don't really need that much speed unless you are constantly transferring different files to each drive. Now, if you have two PCI Express 5 drives, that would make perfect sense, because if you store a lot of data and you need to save it quickly, that's definitely the most efficient way to do so. And you can transfer speeds with no problem. But if you're using it to upload, like if you're using it to download games, or if you're using it to play games off of, you won't really see a difference until Microsoft officially creates what's called direct storage. And when Microsoft does come out with direct storage, then you can be able to play your games in those type of speeds. Because Microsoft Direct Storage was an idea that they had for the Xbox Series X. Some of the games already implemented, and unfortunately not a lot of games currently do now. But as long as Microsoft starts pushing it, more than likely I think you'll probably see it more within like the next year or so, especially that they demanded that the price difference of games, especially after the holidays, are going to be about $80 or more. So that's going to kind of give you an idea of where we are when it comes on that side of it. But so again, you don't really need PCI Express 5, especially if you're doing a new build. You could get away even with PCI Express 4 perfectly fine, and you'll spend way less money. You'll spend like $62 on a PCI Express 4 NVMe compared to spending nearly $200. So you'll save on that, and then you could literally buy yourself a set of RAM on the side of it. So it's definitely a good idea to that instead, I would say. But so if you're doing like a PC build, I know Newegg is also doing not only Newegg, but Micro Center is also doing it too. If you are getting an Intel processor, you can also pick up 2 games with it. And I think they even have a NVMe that actually comes with it. In fact, they're actually doing a Civilization 7. You can pick that up, and it will also come with a NVMe. So you get 2 things if you do get a Intel processor. So it has to be the newer generation one. It can be the 265 or the 285K. If you get it, you'll be able to get that with your bundle. If you're choosing out a motherboard, you have to look for a Z890 board. And I know, unfortunately, Intel is doing away with that side of it. They're not going with Z890 after this year, though. That's the only thing. And that's probably why they're offering so much incentive, because they want to clear out all their Z890s to do so. So if you're thinking that you can upgrade to, say, later this year's processor, I don't know if they're still going to continue it somewhat, maybe have a refresh of their processor plus another processor that they're working on currently, which is going to be completely different than the node that they have now. And because they're going to switch up sockets and everything already. So this generation was only lasted for a year. These motherboards only lasted for a year. So it really sucks on that side of it. So if you're waiting to get onto the new generation of Intel, then I would say the best option is to switch over to Intel's newer motherboard, and then you don't have to worry about waiting a whole nother generation. More than likely, they're going to stick on that generation for a good while, just like what they did with Alder Lake, Raptor Lake, and all their refreshes. I don't know why they really decided to change it last minute, but I think it's almost like they're kind of doing like they're trying to reset themselves away from everything that Pat Gelsinger, who was the guy that was running Intel. They're trying to switch off of him because I think they felt that he hasn't done as good when it came to the marketing side. AMD, the good thing about them, if you are on AMD's chipset, they will continue to process on the current motherboards on AM5. So when they do come out with their 10,000 processors, then they will also be on AM5 still. So you don't have to worry about switching off on it. That they will still have the same motherboards, at least up until 2027, I would say. The 27 would be when they would finally switch over. So they stayed on this generation of motherboards or this socket for a lengthy time. Again, that's why AMD is really good at what they do, and hence why they're winning the whole processor race. AMD is definitely has been holding the championship for, I gotta say, the longest compared to Intel. Ever since the whole 8th generation for Intel, they just kind of fell off, and then it was no good for them after that, because everything from there kind of turned into a clone after each clone. So they weren't even really developing anymore. They were just kind of pushing out the same chipset, but calling it a new generation, especially when it came to the 9th. The 9th and the 10th generation was the worst. But so another part I do have to mention here is not only when you do a build, another thing you have to consider is, especially when it comes to, I'm just curious, I'm going to look up a BTF case here to see if they do have any, and I'll share the screen with you guys here so that way you guys can check it out too. We're going to look up a BTF motherboard, see if they do have them yet. And what a BTF motherboard is their motherboards with hidden connectors. So we can take a look here. I'm clicking into this one now. And this is how it looks like, right? And you can already see how clean it looks. Like, you notice that there's no connections on it at all. And let me move the screen just slightly here. Looks just like this. You don't see no ATX connector, nothing. Looks pretty clean, right? And then the way they would have all the connectors on this board here is right back here. This is what makes it really cool. Right there. So nothing gets in the way of your motherboard in the front. And it helps keep your PC cooler because now you don't have any wires that interfere with the airflow. So these boards are really nice to have, especially that they're going to come out with BTF GPUs. Now, ASUS isn't the only one that makes them too, but they also have them for it for MSI and Gigabyte. But Gigabyte announced their Stealth. I don't think it's readily available yet, but I'll look it up just to see if they do have it. They do have their ice one. This here goes Gigabytes here. That's a sick board. And I'll show you where they put the connections on this. Again, right up here. This makes sense. And if you're looking for a motherboard like this, always look for a case that is also compatible, because not all cases might have accessibility to these areas of the motherboard. So even if you do get a case and you're unsure of its compatibility, don't do the CPU install or anything yet. Just kind of retrofit your motherboard into the case and see how well it fits. And then if you're able to connect everything as you expect it to, then you continue with the install. That way you don't end up installing like your CPU, your NVMe, all your extra stuff, and then once you throw it in there, you're like, oh no, it don't fit. Then you'll have to deal with taking out the CPU and removing all the extra work that you threw into that PC. But that's pretty amazing, and MSI Zero is really nice too. MSI Zero looks something like this. And this one's even for like a really good deal. This one's $200. This one was for the LGA 1700, which is their prior generation. So this is based on the Alder Lake and also Raptor Lake, all that type of generation, really. And this is when I really first seen it, when they started messing with it. And here goes some people's builds here, but all right, so the connections again, same area. And the cases you want to look for, looks something like this. Let's see. We'll take a look at this one. Will look something like this, where it's more accessible. So you have much more room. Reverse connect BTF, and that's what you want to look for. Because there's many cases that you'll think will have it, but then you'll be surprised to find out that the case don't fit it. So it's a good idea to double check it. Just make sure it has something like this on there, and then you know you're good to go. You see? I'll say something just like this. So, everybody, I'd like to thank everyone who has joined into the stream today. I appreciate everyone who has been part of it. And if you haven't joined the Discord already, make sure you do. I will send it through the chat here. Yeah. So feel free to join the Discord channel if you haven't already. Thanks again so much for everybody that has joined in once more. If you have any questions at all, feel free again to ask in Discord. Check out the latest videos and make sure you stay tuned, because the next time I will stream is on Saturday. More than likely we can go and stream Doom or something then. And then we can see how well it does with the RTX 5090. But thanks again so much for watching, everybody. Take care. Love all you guys.